Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, London Souza. Hey, have you grabbed your free Self-Love and Sweat monthly calendar yet? This calendar is so amazing. It comes right in your inbox every single month to help you have a little nugget of wisdom, a sweaty workout, a mindset activity, just a little something to help keep you focused and motivated and keep that momentum towards your goals. So every day when you get this calendar, you'll see a link that you can click that will lead to a podcast episode or a workout or something that will be very powerful and quick to read. And then you'll also see on the top left corner of every single day, there's a little checkbox in the calendar. And what that is that's for your one thing. You can choose one thing every month, or it can be the same, something that you want to implement, and make this something that you can easily implement, like daily meditation or getting a certain amount of steps or water, for example, and staying hydrated, and even taking your supplements. This can be something if you want to get more regular doing a particular habit and routine, you can choose what that checkbox means. So if you want your Self-Love and Sweat free monthly calendar delivered right to your inbox every month on the first of the month, go to lifelikelondon.com/calendar, fill out the form really quickly, and you will have your calendar in your inbox within a few short minutes. That's lifelikelondon, lifelikelondon.com/calendar. Go get yours for free and enjoy this episode. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have Chad as our special guest. Chad is a seasoned serial entrepreneur with an impressive track record spanning over a decade. He founded Kettlebell Kings from scratch and orchestrated a remarkable 3-year multi-million-dollar acquisition back in November of 2021. Today it stands tall as a thriving international company making waves. In 2019, Chad pivoted into another position in his natural lifestyle products. His new company, Life Grows Green, is uprooting negative stereotypes about hemp and creating new products by only using the elements found in nature. With his background as a student athlete, Chad's passion for sports permeates every aspect of his work. Chad's approach to business is the same as his approach to sports. Athletic competition is good, but outside the sports arena, competition takes new heights. His latest project is an upcoming book entitled Preparing for Battle. Chad discusses a wide range of topics from developing a winning mindset to creating a solid business plan, building a strong team, and navigating the challenges of scaling a modern day business plan or a modern day business. Preparing for Battle is targeted at aspiring entrepreneurs and minority owned business leaders who are looking for actionable advice and insights that they can apply in their own lives and business. Chad, thank you for being here. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, pretty robust bio there. A lot of stuff, which is super interesting because Kettlebell Kings fitness, natural products, athletes, this is like all up my alley. So I'm excited to chat with you today. First question, what is a winning mindset to you?
Well, I mean, I think a winning mindset is, it's not necessarily always about winning. I think it's more about knowing that you're going to have to go compete. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to get better day in, day out in order to achieve whatever goal you have. So, when I was playing sports, that was pretty easy on a team. You go to practice on a regular basis and you get better. So, you might not win every practice, but you prepare yourself to win the game. And I think that's a good analogy for business is you're trying to prepare yourself, whether that's your mind or your team members to go out and achieve things that other people find hard to achieve and is worth money.
Yeah, I like that. The winning mindset is not always about winning, and you can not win every practice, but still win the game. I like that. That resonates. Tell me about Kettlebell Kings and how you got started there. I know you started that with your friends, right? Like this was a business that you did with your friends. Was it in college? Maybe I remember that story or read it somewhere. Tell us about how you got started and what that was like building a business with your friends.
Well, I mean, I think, we all have kind of college buddies and people that we've associated ourselves with in college. And, I played college football at Rice. And so I had a pretty good network of friends and their friends that also wanted to, get out of college and, have ambitious goals, start new companies, try to achieve, more than what's average, if you will. And through that process of everyone kind of trying to find out what they want to do after college, I think everyone goes through like maybe a 3 to 5 year period of not knowing what to do. And you go through different jobs. I did the same thing. And after five years of kind of doing that, I was in a corporate job. A couple of my other friends were in pretty good corporate jobs, but none of us, we all had the same complaints. And I knew personally that I had reached kind of the point where I had enough experience to know this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And if I do want to do this for the rest of my life, I can come back and do it, at any point. But if I really want to kind of take a shot and start a business, I need to do that. So I decided that I was going to reach out to try to form like a council. The thing I wanted was 2 other friends that would go into this with me. I didn't necessarily know who those would be at the time. And I started reaching out to several different people. After, maybe 5 to 6 phone calls, I think that narrowed down to maybe 2 people. And here we are, 10 years later, selling the company and moving on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that you had this vision of, you weren't going to do it alone. There were 2 other people by your side that maybe you could like sense or envision in your dream, but you didn't know who they were yet. And I think a lot of people that I talk to that are successful, it's like you have this vision, kind of what that end goal might look like, but the players, for lack of better terms, I know you're a sports guy, are not put in the place yet. You have maybe the plan or the play ready to go. How did you know that those two friends were the ones to bring in? Because doing business with friends, I think anyone listening, or even, friends, family, whatever, it can be messy sometimes. Like, how did you know that those were the right friends that you wanted to bring your vision to life with?
Well, I mean, I think it started with the idea of it being a council. So,
Mm.
I wanted it to honestly be something that we all sat down and made good business decisions, no matter what business that was that we were running. And committing to that idea and committing to kind of the long-term approach of three people being in a council that makes business decisions was something that was kind of priority there. So we did that and made that commitment before we even knew what type of company we were going to start. And that was, we had to come up with some dollar amount and put it into an account and, make those types of a commitment. So it was, it was some steps in there that said, okay, this is serious to us, and we're all going to, genuinely commit to making sure this works.
And how did you land on kettlebells? I've been to a couple kettlebell gyms before. I know that there's like a community of like, we only do kettlebells, or like kettlebells are life. Was that you? Did you like tap into some of that? Or like, did you guys just love kettlebells, or like, why?
Yeah. I personally created the kettlebell community, but no, that's exactly why we started it. We noticed early on that there was a community of kettlebell enthusiasts that just were not kind of appreciated. There was no brand that was for the kettlebell enthusiasts. The product was growing. This is in 2012. So CrossFit is just really becoming pretty big across the nation, and it's using kettlebells. But even the people that are using kettlebells for CrossFit, they're arguably not using kettlebells the most effective way, or using it in different ways than other people use it. And so we really saw all of how that particular product had a community of kind of an underground community of people who wanted to be connected together. And instead, we're all in these separate tribes. And so the idea was to bridge those tribes and bring all those communities together by focusing on the product and not really kind of identifying with one particular way to use it. At the end of the day, I think we all want a fitter, healthier kind of version of ourselves. And so we see that as the centerpiece to everybody that comes around. And then let's use this tool to make ourselves better today. And if you do that, I think it's hard for anybody to kind of not join a community like that.
Yeah, I've had some really good experiences with kettlebells and being in a kettlebell class. And I remember the first gym I ever went to, I was like, oh, because I've, been in fitness. I started when I was as a fitness trainer when I was 17 and 34 now. So I've like been in the game for a while. Yeah. And I knew how to use kettlebells, like, in a certain way, kettlebell swing or like goblet squats or whatever. But I remember going in and the instructor was like, no, you need to go to a foundations class first. And I remember learning so many techniques of how to hold it and had like my wrist and just all these different things when that was the moment I realized like, oh, this is like an art. Like there's an art to this and this is really cool. And I can see how this could be different. And I loved kind of that foundations there. So yeah, good on you. I think it's really cool what you guys have created. What was the hardest part about starting a business with your friends? Like what was the biggest, hardest, like most struggle, maybe like sticky moment, and how did you navigate that?
I mean, it's definitely not easy. You are going to test your friendship if you start a business with your friends. It's going to be more serious and more difficult than probably anything that you've ever been through before. Money is going to be on the line. Your investment, your hard work is going to be on the line. You're not going to agree with all the decisions that get made. I think it's impossible for three people to have the same vision of the world or the company or just different circumstances. So preparing yourself and knowing that going in will help you quite a bit to give your partners more grace and to understand that, they might not agree with every decision you make as well. And, sometimes you have to let people be wrong. I think that's a part of it as well. Is if you get outvoted, I think that's, it's important to still support your team member, even if you don't think that, this is the best direction for the company. And in doing so, I think you kind of set the tone more for the company in general. So, there was a lot of times in which, maybe I thought something was the right way to do it, and you test it and it's not the right way. And then you test the other person's way, and maybe you should have went that way first. And when you are just accepting going through those types of processes together, it builds you, I think it builds your friendship a little deeper. And so, when people say it's not personal, it's just business, I think you really start to define what that is if you can get through the first, let's say, 20 of those types of circumstances.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I think that, yeah, people want to be the type of person that can, I used to work at a startup when I lived in Austria, and we grew really rapidly, and we would often say disagree and commit. Like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to disagree and commit to your way, but it takes not everybody can do that. Like disagree and commit. There can be like, yeah, people's, just their internal representation of the world, their programming, ego, whatever that might get in the way. And like you said, it might take 20 times. And when I think of 20, I think of like repetitions, like an exercise, right?
Exactly.
Like you build that strength through the repetition. Were there any moments where you were just like, forget this? Or have you
Oh,
guys
sure.
all
Yeah.
three?
No, so many. Yeah. So many. Yeah. You ask my partners, we've had heated arguments, but I think that's what makes a team. If you're not intense about something, I don't think you're really pushing it. So, we are going to have intense conversations. We're going to have difficult conversations. We've had, meetings where, hey, it's an emergency meeting because things have gotten so tense around the decision making around this particular issue or whatever that may be. Luckily, one of my partners is a teammate of mine who played college football with me. The other was a friend of a college teammate. So he at least understood those types of situations. When you play football or really any team sport, you understand like you don't get to call the plays, and you definitely don't agree with all the coaches' plays, but you go out and you give 100%, especially when you don't agree. You probably give more when you don't agree because you want to see overall success. And when people see you doing that over and over and supporting their ideas, even though you don't agree with it, or especially when you openly don't agree with it, it gives them a sense to listen to you next time, to give you more of a say in maybe their decision-making process, or be more open to the information that you're trying to get them to absorb. So, like I said, I think I think you hit it on the head when you say it's the repetitions, but it's setting your ego and your emotions aside long enough to go through that process without ruining your friendship, So I think it's important to do team building exercises, go out. If you're a drinker, go out, have some drinks together, go, try to do some recreational activities to make sure that you are still having that friendship or bond if you're going to choose to, get in business with your friends.
Yeah. And did you guys have that conversation where it was like, hey, under any circumstance, like friendship over business? Or were you guys like, if we don't end up friends, we still got to make this business work? Like, what did that conversation, maybe over a few drinks, look like to make sure that you guys were really on the same page?
Sure. I mean, I think I don't know if it's friendships over business. This might seem harsh, but, I think when you get to a certain point, you just respect everyone's investment. You can see and, other people have put in effort to try to make this as successful as you have. Even if you feel like you've done more than them, it's not like you can't see what they've done. 10 years is a long time to commit to anything. So, as long as you are kind of open to the idea of their experience exists and your experience exists, I think it makes it a lot easier to just accept, like, you don't always have to agree. I tell people all the time, like, I have hundreds of teammates. I didn't like them all. I mean, if I don't like most people probably. So if that tells you anything about, my teammates, but I still respect every single one of them. I still, they're still my brothers to this day. And, it becomes more than my personal like or friendship once you really commit to such a goal like business or, a championship or something like that.
That's cool that you can maybe not like someone and you could still respect them and you could still, implement what they might think is the next best step or strategy, and realizing you're not going to like or agree with everybody in every situation, I think is a powerful foundation to just know, especially when doing things with friends. I've been watching the show Quarterback on Netflix. I don't know if you've watched it, but
I
it's
haven't watched it.
so
I have it on my
good.
list and I have not watched it. So
Watch it.
don't spoil it for me. But
I won't spoil it.
if you
Not
have
spoil
any
it.
concepts, let's just talk general concepts.
Yeah, no, I'm not I won't spoil it at all. It's so good. My dad is a coach. was a coach. He's retired now, but coached baseball and football my whole life. I think my whole life I remember just being at baseball games and tournaments and like all these things. So I've always been really inspired by athletes. I would love to read like the autobiography of Babe Ruth. I did that for like my school project in second grade. Like I just have always been really inspired by athletes. And so on this one particular episode, not giving anything away, don't worry, Chad. I forget his last name is Cousins. I think he's plays for the Vikings, the quarterback for the Vikings. And he really has like, moments where he's like struggling and he takes his mindset like really, really seriously. And he has this like psychologist that they show on the show and just kind of how he meets with them regularly. And so, I guess my question is like, how has athleticism, and the mindset of athleticism, contributed to where you're at now? And is that something that because like these people I watch, I'm looking at my TV, like it's on right now, but you watch it and it's like, these people are at the top of their game, right? They're like the best of the best. There's a Netflix documentary about them, so it's like, and they're still like have this humbleness to be like, no, there's still something that I don't know. There's still something I can learn. There's still like skills I can get better at. And, when I read your bio to have a multi-million-dollar acquisition, you can't really get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm just good. Like, we're just good. So how do you like keep that tune up? Do you have certain practices for like mindset and fitness and lifestyle or whatever to keep you in that space of like, I'm not there yet. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm good. I know I'm crushing, but like, I want to get to that next level. Like, what are some of those physical or even mindset practices that you have in your life, or maybe some of your business partners too, where you're like, I'll never stop doing that. I'll always need that. I want to tell you about Magic Mind energy shots for focused energy and productivity. I've really been trying to find a way to keep my energy levels steady throughout the day and not need to rely so much on coffee. So I take this little shot alongside my morning cup of coffee, and I've really felt more focus and clarity and less jitters. And I've noticed feeling so much more awake and alert on my hikes, which I love because I love being out in nature and hiking and feeling good. So I've been making these Magic Mind shots part of my morning, and these shots are packed with all natural ingredients sourced from the best suppliers that Magic Mind could find. There's no sugar, they're nut-free, vegan, keto, paleo-friendly, all the things. And it has matcha for sustained non-abrasive energy, ashwagandha, which is an amazing adaptogen that helps our body better adapt to and respond to stress. There's also lion's mane and cordyceps mushrooms to support cognitive function, strengthen your immune system, and so much more. I love the flavor and the nutrient power punch it gives me. So I totally recommend you try it. You can get it at magicmind.com/sweatlove. With code London20, you can also get up to 56% off your first subscription or 20% off your one-time purchase. That's London20, LUNDEN 20 for 20% off at magicmind.com/sweatlove. Now, this code also works if you're already a Magic Mind subscriber. You'll just get to save on your next subscription payment. So try it out. Let me know what you think. And now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think, conceptually, that's one of the things that my business partners and I agreed on before we started is, intellectually, we're going to keep growing forever. So, what we start in year one should be better in year two, better in year three. This should be a living, breathing organism that improves over time. And if we can't improve it anymore with our intellect, we need to be, reaching out to other people to figure out a way to improve it. And that's just the kind of the way I look at life in general, the way I look at business. So, I think it's part of my personality. I'm probably a little more intense than most people when it comes to a lot of that stuff. So like physical fitness and things like that have always been a huge part of my life. I grew up playing pretty much every sport under the sun. And, when I try to like reference it to sports, like even in, like in college, for example, our coaches would say like they're on scholarship too, like, I don't know why you think your competition is somehow not working, not improving, not trying to, lift weights and get faster, stronger, whatever that might be. So in the business world, I think it's the same way. There's not a single day I wake up and think that I shouldn't be a better business person than I was yesterday. And I need to, somewhat gorge myself on valuable information so that I'm processing things as they are today, not as I want them to be or as they were yesterday.
Yeah, just always be learning, always striving to do better. What do you think about like the younger generation? And I don't know, I just see like I know that it's not for everybody, but just this like desire to have now without needing to put in the work, or like seeing like, oh, this YouTuber or this TikToker or this person, but then lacking like the dedication and the step by, like, do you think that's something that like our society or culture like has shifted since you started and you started your business? And what would you like, how can we empower that generation to like put in the work and the grunt work?
Well, I mean, I think I'm one of those people that, I think that the internet more exposes who we are versus, kind of changes who we are. I think these people have always existed. I think it's just become a more of a prevalent idea that people attach themselves to now. This idea that, you could just become a YouTuber and you can be great from just being. Like that's all you have to do is just, be. And that does work, but that's the same logic as I can hit the lottery, and the lottery's I think 700 million tonight or something. So you have the same chances if you just want to be. But there is a path to success that people can take, and finding and navigating that path today is not the same as it was even 10 years ago. I think with technology and things changing as fast as they are, there will be some people in the younger generation that find it, and then there will be people who just kind of get washed up and kind of manipulated by the algorithms. I think we're fortunate, or, my generation, I should say, is fortunate because I remember when social media first came out. So I remember saying, oh, how can I use this to make money? How can I use this as a business tool? Like this is an algorithm that will get people to, purchase things and see more things that are available to them online, versus some people believe it's real today. So, if when I try to give advice to people today, I try to get them to see the world through the lens of business and through the lens of someone's trying to make money off of this versus, this is just some kind of easy path that you should just kind of just mindlessly go into and get brainwashed by.
Mm. Yeah, totally. It is a business. And sometimes I've had conversations with, I want to be like that. And I'm like, yeah, but they do this day in and day out. Like this is their business. Yeah. It looks like fun. And they're just like, showing up on camera, just being like, themselves, which is great. But there's so much back end that goes behind all of that. With that being said, what do you think is like the biggest, I don't want to say misconception, but something that you didn't think you would have to push through in business that now that you know it, you're like, oh, I have to make sure that people know, hey, don't miss this. When you start business, like either don't skip this corner or don't forget about XYZ. And I'm sure it's changed because as you mentioned, things have changed over the last 10 years since you started or whatever. But what are maybe some of those things that still have stayed true that are like, hey, I didn't know this at first. And now that I know it, I have to share it.
I mean, I think there's so many, right? Like, especially, depending on what level you are in the business. But, I think one of the number one things that when people are starting off, they don't realize how much money the business needs to make for them to really, like, say, change their lives personally, to make life-changing money for yourself. So, you hear people say like, oh, well, I'm a millionaire because my business makes $1 million. And like, that's just not how the world works. And that's not how a successful business works over a 5-year period or 10-year period. So really setting yourself up with a mentor or someone who maybe has walked the path that you've walked before. It doesn't necessarily have to be a quote unquote mentor, but having a perspective in reality of what it takes to pay yourself life-changing money from your business going into it, I think is very crucial. Even, starting with partners, for example, you all have different perspectives of what that is, what life-changing money is to each one of you is going to be different. That's going to, what I need for my bills is not going to be what my partner needs for his bills. And so having those conversations early, trying to set milestones that are realistic, not to you, but to market standards or to, like a third party, non-biased perspective. I think that goes a long way. And we did that. We wish we had done that sooner because, what it looks like is, you can go 5 years without having the ability to pay yourself, and that can be, it can go on forever if you don't plan it out. And the business itself is kind of the priority, and you come second to it. So that would probably be my number one advice to people starting out.
Yeah, to have those conversations about money and what that looks like for you and having it sooner. And I think money can be a taboo topic that people get nervous to talk about, or it's kind of like, we'll deal with that later. And from what I hear you saying, even though this is something that you guys talked about, you almost wish you would have done it sooner and even had more clarity in that conversation, which I think, anyone who's listening that's in business or entrepreneur or whatever, those are the important topics to talk about and get real about. You also mentioned mentors or, people that can guide you and give you that advice and guidance. And I was doing an interview for the podcast with Jen Drummond. She did like 7 summits. She has 7 kids. She's just like phenomenal. And she was saying that she believed she could do it because she knew that someone else had done it. Like she saw, like, it's kind of like the 4-minute mile. It's like someone had done it, so I could do it too. Or is there anybody, whether you name them or not, but like that you saw where you were like, oh, they've done it, so I can too? Or do you really feel like you just kind of paved a road and didn't really see much of like anybody else doing it, so you were the kind of the trailblazer?
And I mean, not at all. I mean, I'm not big on idolization, so I don't try to like say, like, this is the one person that I idolize my life and build my life around. But I've seen so many people do it, so I literally try to steal the best from everybody. I've had family members who started their own business and were successful at doing so. I've had even in going to college, I had an older cousin who had went to Rice and played football before me. So like I knew I could potentially get a scholarship and go to Rice and play football, things like that. So it's more of just looking for a realistic example to compare yourself to, and then, setting or charting a path for yourself. For me, if we're using business, I knew I had already worked in corporate America. I'd worked for so many different companies. I'd seen operations from small businesses to large businesses being run. So I already kind of had seen it, the insides of things. I just hadn't been in charge of the operation. So I've always been the person to go out and get the experience first. And that gives me confidence to take that next step. But then at a certain point, you just have to jump, and I think that's what all entrepreneurship is. There's a lot of risk to it. You can take educated guesses as much as possible. But at the end of the day, I think when you're an athlete or a risk taker in general, it comes more natural to you. You want the big shot. You want them to throw you the ball. You want the opportunity to actually succeed. So putting yourself in a position is what I try to do. It's just continuously do that in business, and luck finds you.
Yeah, luck finds you. Tell me more about that. Where'd you get that from?
I think it's one of those things that you notice when you play sports, because it seems like some people are just lucky. Like, in football, it seems like, oh, this guy always gets the ball. He always gets the loose ball. He's always getting interceptions. But it's like, it's a reason, because he's always close to getting interceptions. He's always putting himself in a position where if anything happens, something can go good. And, I think it's like that in business. Like, you can't control COVID. You can't control the marketplace. You can't control so many circumstances. But if you set yourself up and have, more than one rod in the fire, if you will, you're just waiting on that right opportunity so you can seize on it. And to some people that might look like luck, but to you, that's, preparation and kind of having at least an educated guess with your strategies.
Yeah, preparation, being in that, like you said, well, he's just in that position to receive the interceptions. It's not that he's always getting the interceptions. He's putting himself in that space and putting himself where that luck can exist. That's cool. Exactly. I like that. Tell us about your book, Preparing for Battle. After talking to you, I'm super excited to read it. What can we expect from it? And what are maybe like a couple nuggets from the book? I know maybe you've shared some of them today, but maybe some specifics from the book that can get us excited about learning more from you.
I mean, I try to give, in the book, I try to encompass what I've gone through so far and kind of give people an idea of who I am, why I think the way I think, and then just give you basically 10 kind of building blocks to think about when you're trying to build a strategy for your new business. So, if you're, especially if you're dealing with direct to consumer businesses and online businesses, obviously that's something that I'm extremely familiar with. But really, it's any business in any kind of leadership position. I think some of the concepts that people miss are easily kind of seen in other places. So whether that's in sports or, even in some of the organizations or the teams that you've been on in your life. So, I try to get people to really draw from their own personal references of well-oiled machines or teams that actually get things done and use everything they can from, their team building aspect to, how they built the brand, how they got people to be involved in the community. So, I use a lot of references from my own life to really draw out how I think about those things.
Cool. Are you proud like that you wrote a book? Are you excited?
No, I am. Even in the book, I say, I 10 years ago, I wanted to write a book 10 years ago, but I didn't have anything to write about. I mean, I did, but I didn't even feel like it was worth anybody reading. And so at this point, I probably still feel that way somewhat, but I know at least, with the acquisition of the company, I can at least kind of culminate kind of this chapter of my life and talk about how that has influenced me to make the next decisions. One of the things that I've learned about business, especially owning a fitness and wellness company, is a lot of my business philosophies and a lot of the things that I do come from just who I am naturally. I didn't realize it when I started the company that would be the direction I go into. So even when you were introducing me, you mentioned natural lifestyle. It's like Chad's natural lifestyle, and it kind of is my natural lifestyle because that's what I'm passionate about, and I try to lean into that a little bit more now. So I kind of talk about that in the book and kind of personalizing your strategy for business according to what you're interested in. I think that wakes you up a little bit easier every morning.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited to read it. One last question. You're super chill. Like you're really calm. You're just like easy. I know that you've, described some maybe heated conversations with your business partners where I'm sure that you can be preparing for battle and maybe be a little tenacious a little bit, but business is stressful. I'm sure there have been stresses in your life or just things where you really have to, prepare for battle, as you mentioned. What are some of the practices that you have that help you, stay focused, keep your stress down, keep you focused on the bigger picture? Do you meditate? Do you do breath work? Is it just exercise? Do you have like a spiritual practice? Like what keeps you, like I'm relaxed talking to you, like you're chill. Sure. So I like it. So what does that look like for you?
I mean, a part of part of it is because I've been on so many teams and been in so many situations. I've always kind of seen myself as the mitigator of a lot of situations. I can see things from multiple perspectives at once, and I think a lot of people, when they get overly emotional, that's the thing that they're missing. And for me, I always try to do that, and I want progress more than I want to fight or to have an issue with anybody. And I do meditate, but probably fitness is the number one thing for me that keeps me grounded, keeps my head kind of focused. I think, I tell people all the time, like, if you think, starting a multi-million-dollar business is going to be easier than a 30 or 45-minute workout 4 times a week, you're kind of mistaken. So I think that kind of stuff, I laugh about it, but I try to kind of set myself up for the mental exhaustion that running your own business requires, so I know that I put myself into this situation. I know this is where I want to be. I tell myself that all the time. And if anybody's going to do it, to me, I'm the person to do it. And having that type of mindset is important because it will be more exhausting. An ownership mindset is a lot more taxing on you day to day, year to year, month to month, however you want to look at that, than an employee mindset. You really don't get to put it down once you pick up the ownership responsibilities.
Yeah. Own your ownership. I often say own your ship or own your shit. Yeah, I kind of break that up, but when the own your ship part, when you're like taking care of your physical body, it's like you put yourself through the ringer physically because you know that if you can make it through that, like the next step is maybe not going to be as challenging, or at least you're like putting yourself in hard situations on purpose to overcome them. That's actually why I love fitness so much. I think for, maybe the first half of my fitness career, it was more like based on what I looked like or whatever. But then you get to a point where you're like, there's some things that only a tough workout can bring and can ignite inside of you. And so that's really cool. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated the conversation. I feel so excited to read your book and stay connected with what you're doing and your next endeavors. Let us know how we can stay connected with you. Give us kind of your plug to your website or how people can get your book. Let us know.
Sure. You can get the book on for pre-order. It's for pre-order on Amazon right now. So, you can search Preparing for Battle. You can also find it on my website, chadprice.com. And then if you're looking for me socially, it's real Chad Price on LinkedIn. I'm Chad Price. But there's more information about me, my book, my services, whether that's consulting, speaking, podcasts, things like that. So if you're looking for kind of general advice on how it is to start your business and what things to look for and prepare yourself for, I think probably my book is the best place to start. That would be like a culmination, if you will, of a lot of the work that I've done and putting that kind of in a formal form for you to digest.
Cool. Love that. Preparing for battle. One more thing, because I just thought of it, and it's more of a compliment to you, is when you wrote, if you were going to write the book 10 years ago, you're like, what the heck would I write about? I don't even know. And you said you even have a little bit of that in you now, 10 years later. And I just feel like the most successful and the most genius people I've ever met are the ones that say I don't know. And I'm not there yet. And so I think that's cool that you said that, where you're like, I kind of don't know if I know, but I guess I know now because of this. And so Good on you. So stoked to have had you. All the links that Chad mentioned, I'll put in the description so they can easily access your book and connect with you on social and things like that. All the best with you. And thank you guys for listening to this episode. And thanks for being here, Chad.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm London Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.